Hey, Mr. Man.
Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm cool. So you're back from court.
Yes.
How was it?
Well, not as stressful. The usual bureaucracies of, legal proceedings.
Online reporting that it was a short sort of meeting today.
It was quite brief. I was there relatively much.
Let me reduce
Sure.
the volume here.
Sure. I was there relatively much earlier. So as early as 8:45. So seated from the gallery to oversee proceedings.
Was there a gallery for press? Was it like press gallery?
Well, quite similar to, I wouldn't say it was a press gallery, but on this particular situation, we didn't have supporters and visitors attending, so it was strictly restricted to journalists.
Okay, so it became the only gallery and it's for press?
Yes, it was the only gallery.
So you got at 8:45?
Yeah.
And then who came? Is it your first time at the court, though? Is it like a big baptism for you?
Oh, no, not quite. I've had some first-hand exposure to it. About 4 years ago, my parents thought, when I was considering becoming a lawyer then, that I should have some insights into the court system in Ghana before I went off to school. And so I worked, throughout the various stages from the Circuit High Court and did some legal research for, interestingly enough, 2 of the 7 all-male panel. Today, that's the Chief Justice Adom-Otchere and Justice Adom-Otchere. So
you did some internship work for both
yes,
of them?
Yes,
Adom-Otchere and Adom-Otchere.
Very rigorous.
Why are you saying all-male panel? Are you one of those gender? You sort of made an observation that was an all-male panel.
Well, I mean, there's representation when it comes to women on the bench as well. Certainly could be much better, but purely made that observation because that's the fact of the matter.
Give us the names then. So Adom-Otchere was the.
I did take some, yes, I did take some notes on the name. Of course, there was one of my favorite judges I should mention, Paul Bafoboni. Got quite an interesting demeanor. But you had Sule
Badegbe. Badegbe.
I hear if you can't pronounce someone's name properly, you should avoid it.
But you can't avoid the judge's surname.
Absolutely. Not before his court, but hey, I mean.
So he's Sule Badegbe.
Yes. Yes,
and so there's Adom-Otchere and Justice Adom-Otchere and Chief Justice Adom-Otchere.
Sure.
And then you have Justice Sule Badegbe.
Then you had Professor Ashi Kote.
Professor Ashi Kote.
Yeah.
He was my lecturer. He taught property law for many years at the Faculty of Law.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, of course you wouldn't. Yeah.
And Nana Amagacho was there as well.
And Amagacho also taught me advocacy at the law school. Oh. Yeah, he's the former president of the bar.
It's quite a one fraternity, I'll say, from undergrad law.
So you had Nana Amagacho, you had Professor Kote, and Justice Bafoboni.
You had Sam Tete as well, and Samuel Mafo Sao.
Mafo Sao. Yeah. Okay, so that's 7. That's kind of strong.
Yeah, yes.
So the Adom-Otchere obviously was presiding. So at what time did they come in?
Well, it took almost an hour, sometime around 9:30 thereabouts. You can always tell when proceedings will start because the wigs come on just like gloves in a boxing match. Yeah. And so the clerks came, put the relevant documents on the table for the justice, and shortly thereafter we're asked to observe our lordships as they came to,
I see.
Commence
were they in red?
No, they were not in red. Okay. They were clad in the black robes with very exquisite horse tail wigs.
Wigs, yes. Yeah. Straight from England.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell, but certainly was of a relatively good quality as far as the eye can observe.
Who represented the NDC?
Eduji Tamako. He was quite punctual. I mean, when I got there at 8:45 a.m., he was seated there with former Deputy Chief of Staff, former Deputy Minister of Defense and Minister of Health, Alex Sebefia. He was also roped.
Alex was roped?
Oh yeah, with his pinstripe pants, quite ready. I was
Alex
expecting.
Sebefia. This is the first time I'm hearing him in an NDC case.
Yeah,
I've not been going to the court, but that's impressive. Okay, so it's like all hands on deck right now.
Well, I wouldn't say it didn't seem a desperate situation, but clearly, I mean, they're tapping into as much intellectual resources as they can garner as far as the parties.
But there was no Tony Letha?
I was surprised not to see Tony Letha. I mean, with regards to the questions that were before the court today, and I'd say just, regarding the repository of knowledge that he has when it comes to that field, I thought, he would have added a bit more sophistication, not to undermine the caliber and competence of the people that were there today, but I thought Tonita was instrumental in a hearing like this, and perhaps maybe next week he might grace us with this.
No Marietta Brew upon?
Not Marietta either, but there was Yaba Jawara. He was assisting the young and charismatic Edgy Tamaklo.
I see, I like that. Who represented the, of course, Godfrey Dami represented the government side.
Yes, yes.
And so he came in later?
Yeah, he came in slightly later, looked quite busy, always on the move, very fast-paced. Seems quite a focused gentleman, eloquently, suited and double-breasted.
Oh, you saw his suit. You looked at it.
Well, I think it's necessary when you're looking at a profession that isn't only rewarding when it comes to compensation, but requires a certain value and etiquette to the way you behave. You do what you would expect, the Deputy Attorney General to at least the least bit be appropriately dressed.
Wow.
Oh, and quite a beautiful young lady as well. Speaking on the whole gender.
Mr. Vincent Jokoto, when you go to court to report for us, we don't want you to talking about beautiful ladies. That's not your responsibility at the court.
More from
go to the court and report that there was a lady. Well, how did you know she was beautiful?
Well, I think it lies in the eyes of the beholder. But I'm only making that statement because we spoke about an all-male panel earlier on, and so I thought it was very important to add that feminine touch. And there's something awe-inspiring about, from the look of it, very assertive lady, not in the usual attire, expecting she was in pinstripe pants as well. Beautiful African hair. It's just
beautiful African hair.
Added to the touch
let's
of
get to the meat of the matter.
Of course.
Viewers want to know
of course.
What is the... So then, what was the matter before the court?
Well, essentially two things. The plaintiff that was represented by Edgy Tamaklo and the NDC for that matter do want some clarity first and foremost on whether the voter ID can be used, when it comes to compilation of the new register.
Yes.
And there's another aspect that has to do with, I guess, the question of citizenship. And I guess to put it in a much more to make it much more clear for people to understand it, has to do with probably what qualifies you to be a Ghanaian citizen and what makes you an eligible member of the voting class of the Republic of Ghana. So these were the two things that were before the court.
Basically, the reliefs that we have, they are asking in the first relief that the court should agree with them that Article 45, which asks the Electoral Commission to compile and review voters' register periodically, the word compile should be read to mean compile only once.
Well, yeah.
And then the second one is that even if they were to compile, as they are doing, they should, or as they want to do, they should include as part of the documents that Ghanaians will present to the registration officer, the voter ID card that was used in 2012 and 2016's election.
Sure.
That's where I think the real issue.
Technically,
because the CI before Parliament, which is also going through some controversy, excludes the voter ID card. So this is really what you guys
that's said. Exactly what we were observing today.
How did the proceedings start?
Well, I was expecting quite fiery argument, at least as far as legal proceedings were concerned, but it appears that the legal team for the NDC and the Deputy Attorney General team weren't quite able to agree on that legal memorandum joint issue, and so it was a bit surprising. I mean, as both highly competent lawyers, you would have expected that should have taken place, and the Deputy Attorney General made it quite clear after being more or less apprehended by the Chief Justice in Inyampoa that they endeavored to, but they've still not been able to negotiate and
so you're saying that the President of the court was worried that parties have not been able to agree on the issues to be settled before the court? Absolutely,
and as much as I'd say the legal fraternity was conferring with each other, you saw that sort of peaceful coexistence. There wasn't quite that significant communication
between...
Point
you're making diplomatically that there seemed to be hostility between the two parties.
Slightly. I mean, at the end of the day, they are going to be regulated by the standard and ethics of the bench, and so it's not really quite up to them. But, for me, it just represented how tense the political atmosphere is on this matter. And as members of the same, association, more or less, you would expect some amount of cohesion.
So again, the point is that the court was unhappy that parties have not been able to agree. That's part of normal procedure.
Yeah.
So in the preliminary stages, parties agree on the issues that they believe the court should settle. They have not been able to agree on that. So they will have to agree on that.
They're going to have to.
Okay.
to make
Then
some way
what else
forward.
happened in the proceedings?
Well, that's why I was
Sorry, who was representing the Electoral Commission? We never talked about that.
Oh, yes, yes, a very calm, elderly gentleman, I must
Elderly?
say. Yes.
70?
Well, I think you may be referring to his physical stature. I wouldn't suggest he's aged. Yes, it was one, if I recall correctly, Justice, I did note his name down. These things do happen.
Yeah.
I did note his name down. That was Justice.
He's called Justice.
Yeah, he is called
Because when you are referring to a court reporter, you say Justice, we think of the bench.
I put his name. It's somewhere in here.
You can't find it.
No, I do have it. I do have it. Is it Justice Mensah? But I wouldn't want to make that mistake. So give me a second.
Did he speak at all?
Oh yeah, he did. He did briefly make a few points that were.
Okay. We'll get it. Okay. So well, we are at the point where parties were not able to resolve the issues. Okay. Then now, beyond that, what happened? What did the court say about each of the? What did the Attorney General say? What happened after that?
Well, I guess right after, it was noted by the Chief Justice that both parties weren't quite able to, come to that mutual understanding. The next rational, I guess, instruction was for the second defendant, who I'm struggling to...
The Electoral Commission.
For the Electoral Commission. To present a legal basis as to why the voter's ID card should be excluded, from a compilation or perhaps a revision of the new...
It's a compilation. So the court is asking the Electoral Commission to provide a legal basis why the Electoral Commission in the CI that is sent to Parliament excluded the use of the voter ID card as what they call a breeder document, so that those documents that you take to show who you are. So Paul Adom-Otchere, you have Vincent Joko, you show up at the center, you either have your national ID card or you have a passport. Those are the only documents in the CI, constitutional instrument that's gone to Parliament. So I guess the court is asking the Electoral Commission that provide a legal basis for excluding this one.
Yeah.
That's what it is?
And, well, yeah, that's essentially what it is. Quite aptly put, I'm guessing some legal background. But the interesting bit was, there seemed to be a breath of fresh air as far as the plaintiff was concerned. I did engage her, the Deputy General Secretary of the party, her name I do remember, lawyer Barbara Sewa Samwa, was there. I had a brief conversation with her after, to kind of pick her mind on exactly what she thought about the proceedings, in the light of the fact that you've also got the CI, 126.
Yeah, that's maturing in Parliament tomorrow.
Exactly, which will definitely affect the quality of legal discussion.
So, did they have any oral arguments? What did the Deputy Attorney General say?
They couldn't quite have an oral argument, basically because they couldn't agree on what the legal issues they would discuss would be about. I don't think that would repeat itself next week. It's extremely important for the Electoral Commission to ensure that both parties begin, some stage of dialogue, because the onus, more or less, as far as this instruction is concerned, now lies on them.
The Electoral Commission.
Definitely.
To provide the legal basis.
And if they are granted, that their aspirations of compiling what they deem to be a more credible electoral register, time is going to be of the essence. And so nobody more than that, the lawyer for the EC wants finality on this matter. It's absolutely key to him, and it's key
so
to...
because the Electoral Commission didn't have that. So the court asked the first defendant, the Attorney General, whether he has a legal basis or they didn't.
Well, they did for both parties. As a point of law, they could have made oral arguments. My legal opinion, is that perhaps with the issue of that order, the dynamic of the arguments would change. You can't quite see how it would be beneficial for the plaintiffs, for the legal representative of the NDC, for Edigi Tamaklu, to advance an argument, given the fact that there's been a huge burden that has been shifted onto the Electoral Commission. Provide the legal basis for this. Okay.
Yeah, which that means that the Deputy Attorney General is also going to file in support of the Electoral Commission.
Absolutely.
Showing the legal basis for
on
this.
Monday, sharp.
So when are they supposed to file?
By the 8th of January, on Monday.
8th of January file. When is the court reconvening?
11th for
11th
the hearing.
Is Thursday.
Yes.
That's a big week for everyone.
It is.
And a busy weekend.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's a big deal. So on the political and PR side, the NDC are going to feel victorious at the preliminary stage.
Which Well, that's what we expect. That, I guess, is the direction in which the legal team will want to spin, the matter as far as the proceedings went. The thing is, Paul, when you consider the fact that the EC has recognized the flaws within its institution, in as much as far as public opinion is concerned, we're likely to see, to witness a situation where the one institution we're supposed to look to when it comes to confidence in our democracy may very well have to purge itself and more or less take the lid off its organization and expose the incompetence that has that exists within that has existed within the institution.
I mean, I don't agree that it's incompetent. That's an allegation.
Well, not wholly, but this is something very interesting happened on the 31st of January 2019. I was in studio while the Ayawaso thing was going on, and G Menta walked in the studio. I think it's quite uncharacteristic of an electoral chair commissioner to grant an interview. Paul, you would know. Wow.
Oh, she granted an interview?
Oh, she did. Yes, her first ever in-studio interview, for that matter. And I remember very clearly that she was quite bitter, first and foremost, about the team, and she thought their expertise could be harnessed, that she could deepen the human resources.
She was talking about the civil servants. Let's not digress on that. Okay,
absolutely.
That's okay. So they're back in court on Monday to file, and on Thursday the court will hear the oral argument. By that time, they should have determined the issues for the courts to deal with.
They should have. That's what we naturally would expect.
Another legal position that has to be explained is that Parliament is going to look at it on. Parliament is going to the CI in Parliament matures on June 5, which is tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I don't know, because if it matures, then it's a ready document, and as it is before Parliament, it excludes the voter ID card of 2012 or 2016. So that's something that we have to wait to see. I don't know whether they're going to write to the Speaker to delay that until the court's ruling.
Which is why the largest opposition party in our country has been granted a lifeline when you look at the order that was issued by...
The Deputy Attorney General is going to say that it's court procedure. We will submit the argument and that'll be it.
But when you think about it, if
they do have those legal bases, if they do have.
But it's the best case scenario in a situation where clearly it's in the interest of the executive to ensure that whatever ensues this December 2020 isn't one that is questioned as far as, I guess, legitimacy is concerned.
Yeah, okay.
So the executive clearly is for a very clean voters register.
Yeah.
Parliament, I guess, is dominated by the New Patriotic Party. So when you look at the three branches, you've already got two sides that...
Executive and legislature.
Yeah, that clearly, I wouldn't say pro-new voters register, but are trying to, when what they claim...
So that's why the judiciary must really get the facts and get the legal arguments correct.
Exactly. And so for the Chief Justice to cast that entire burden on the EC to prove beyond reasonable doubt that particular reference for authentication of who you are as a human being shouldn't be part of it is something that I guess would be assessed
you like going to court?
Well, I mean, I prefer the corporate stuff, but I do enjoy the politics.
Reporting from court?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, you've been working since 8:45.
Yes, I have.
Okay. Richard, do you have a question for him?
Yeah, I do. Vincent, so when the court reconvenes next Thursday, is the court's panel still going to be the same?
Absolutely. I mean, until the case is over, we're expecting a consistency as far as that 7-member panel is concerned, presided over by the Chief Justice himself.
Okay. So, good to know.
Hey, you listen now?
Yeah.
It makes sense. Is it good?
Bad. I mean, it's correct. You've been able to get all what
the information.
The information you're looking at for. Just that I am thinking maybe because of our viewers, you should tone down a little bit with the
law.
The
slang.
Yeah.
Is it?
It is.
No. I think there's a fine difference between speaking well and slanging.
No, your own is slanging that I buy and all that. So what do you do now?
Just retouching the June 4th documentary.
Okay. Yeah. So, for later today. Okay, that'd be cool. Okay, congratulations. It looks like our chief editor likes your report.
Oh,
you've done a good job. You deserve something.
I guess. If I may ask, what's in your
this one is pineapple juice made in Ghana from the Kumfi factory. Maybe you want some? Shall I give you a glass?
Quite patriotic, but you know, I've had quite a long day. I was wondering, have you got, you know, a little kick? For your mixture.
You mean you want alcohol? At what's the time? 5 something? You want alcohol?
Well, it's only a harmless question, Paul.
At your age, you don't do that. It's just pineapple, by the way.
Well.